a question I keep trying to wrap my head around, and we talked about this briefly the other day, and I mentioned it because other members may have the same thing. How do we teach 5 through 8 year olds the same in the same class as adults past the beginner phase? I understand the beginner phase, but once we start getting into the more intermediate phase, things definitely change for those two groups. How do we keep going forward with that?
Mr. Burton, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the change. What changes?
With my art, there's considerable amount of changes. We're heavily grappling based and weapons based, and I also teach first aid. And these are not things I'm going to be teaching a 5 through 8 year old. I'm not going to teach them choke outs. I'm not going to teach them arm breaks. I'm not going to teach them things like that. And it's also not what I'm going to teach a mom, going back to what John had said. We have to have classes that are good with them. So eventually there's going to be a split phase where some students will want to continue on in this much more advanced form of martial art, and others want to stay in what I'm currently calling the family martial art program.
Okay, so what you're describing is a upgrade potential.
Yes, absolutely.
So the way you segregate that is based on membership. So for example, the class starts at 5 o'clock. Mom, dad, and the kids are on the mat. At 5:45, the class changes its direction. For the students who are more firmly committed to membership, the training goes on for the 15, 20 minutes, but they're doing what you just described. Meanwhile, everybody else bows out and leave the mat.
Okay, that's kind of the decision I was thinking of where I need to go with this. So that I guess that works. Again, because I'm wrapping my head around this, all new concept for me. Do we provide a different belt system for those two groups? So I've got this upgraded system, so the progression's a little different. What they do is a little different. Do we start everybody in what I'll call family beginner martial arts or family martial arts? We get them through the beginner phase, and out there, I can continue teaching family-friendly martial arts, have own belt system, own requirements. That's fine. For those who want to go into the more advanced Koru art, it's like, okay, you now qualify. Let's get it where, hey, you made it. You qualify. You have the skills to start doing this. And then just teaches something totally different. That's a different class, different offer.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily make it a different class. I would make it an extension. What gums up the works is that as a student becomes involved in your program, whether they change rank or change program, it typically means you got to change their start time. Right. One of the secrets to keeping people longer is don't penalize them because they choose to upgrade or get more deeply involved by changing their class time. One of the things you got to realize, and again, this has everything to do with if you decide to become a family-based organization. To become family-based implies that mom, dad, and the kids can start the class at the same time. All right, so now what we're talking about is what will be included in your upgraded membership. But the goal isn't to make them a perfect color belt. The goal is to get them the black belt, because that's where the real training begins. So for now, as you look at your schedule, there are 3 things to consider. Number 1, can I leverage that class time where I have 80% capacity? And I see some new folks on the call, so let me explain that. Capacity implies a number of students you can comfortably put onto the mat so you can conduct a great class. So let's say in this example, I have space for 24 students. Well, that's 100% capacity. However, my goal would be to have at least 18 students show up in that lesson each and every time I teach. If I'm not able to do that, well, I have to communicate more clearly to my membership to go to that class, or I have to reduce the number of classes so I can amp up the number of people in the lesson. The second thing is, although they're starting at the same time, it doesn't mean they do the same thing the same way throughout the entire lesson. This is where segregation comes in. But as Master Peshke pointed out a few moments ago, during the class, a lot of stuff everybody can do simultaneously. Your warm up, your stretching, your basic regiment. So you segregate the class not based on rank, but based on program. That being said, I took a mental note. Don't call it a beginner's class. Call it basic.
Basic class.
If it's basic, well, we can upgrade people more readily, as opposed to beginner means you're brand spanking new, and there's certain things you have to do before you're able to upgrade. So it's not a beginner class, it's basic. But the third thing is, In order for you to be successful, as Master Pesky pointed out a few moments ago, the fun part is progress. The fun part is helping your students realize that they are getting better. They are being recognized. So that's where the whole class credit thing comes in. So what we've done differently compared to most academies is that we're not basing it on knowledge of content. We're basing it on the number of times you participate in the regimented class, and that's what's rewarded in terms of stripes and belts. So it's a little bit different. But what you just described to me is, hey, your students may have to wade through the chop suey to know what to do after a few months of training. So keep in mind, if you're going to do more advanced training, charge for that by allowing your students to enroll in a higher level program. And you can provide the segregation on the mat. And if it just becomes too congested, that's when you add classes. You don't add classes because you want more students. You add classes because you have more students. And as you increase your membership roster, that's when you might extend the schedule. Now, did I answer your question? Because I think your concern is, hey, wait a minute. A 5-year-old can't do what a 10-year-old, well, a 10-year-old can, and a 10-year-old can't do what a 20-year-old can. All right, well, that's you have to study your curriculum a little bit more closely and decide, is there a way you can massage your curriculum where more people can stay in the class for a longer length of time? And the time frame I'm talking about is given the black belt. Everything happens after black belt, really. This idea of having colored belts and each student being able to perform all the techniques within that rank is a great idea. But the problem is that system of teaching was alive and well back in the 60s and 70s. But when you had 50, 60 students, you were the king of the hill. Now, if you only have 50, 60 students, you might be broke. So we have to realize that we have to provide a greater opportunity for more people to train at the same time. And for the old dogs on this call, that's a tough leap to make. But once you make it, you'll never go back. So you tell me, what are you taking from my long-winded answer?
No, I'm understanding everything you say, and I'm one of those old dogs. I might not look it, but I've been doing this 30 years myself, and and I come from very traditional Koru arts. So as you know, we spent a long time training, and there's some really advanced skills, and I have to really just go back to the books and totally reorganize my entire syllabus to do what we're talking about. And I'm not unwilling; it's just challenging, because as you said, I mean, the way I've been thinking in my head. And I don't put it this way to be in an insulting way. So let me throw that out there, but it's kind of like, okay, this is what I had to come to terms with. I have this fantastic, meal plan that is going to be great for your mind, body, spirit, right? Wonderful. But the masses want McDonald's, not that.
Okay.
I mean, I find a few people who want that, but the masses want McDonald's. I accepted that, but then as we talk more about combining everybody into the same family group, the whole time says, but now I got to serve Happy Meals to everybody because the 5-year-olds want their free toy.
Maybe Rich, I've had this conversation probably 1,001 times.
I'm sure that's why I mentioned.
So, guys, this has been for everybody. Okay, ready? You gotta fill in the blank. Black belt equals what? What's the answer? I mean, if we ask everybody on this call, I might have a different answer. So let me give it a answer that may be unifying. Black belt equals they're ready to start training. Black belt doesn't equal instructor. Black belt doesn't equal expert. Black belt doesn't equal Olympic champion. Black belt equals the level of training that I had to provide to get people to the rank of black belt. And then I can pick and choose what direction I'm going to take them. A lot of folks think black belt equals, well, that guy is really good. He probably can teach. They're two separate paths. I think of the difference between avocation and occupation. The average karate guy, they think they're training the student to one day come on board and actually decide that being an instructor will be his occupation. They're two separate paths. Let me give you a great example. Yoga. I don't know if you guys do yoga, but I tell you, it has just as challenges as martial arts, and it addresses the needs to be physically fit, emotionally mature. As a matter of fact, if you think about both yoga and martial arts, they lay claim to the same benefits. Cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, flexibility, overall coordination. So both yoga and martial arts provide the same outcome. Now, the only difference might be self-defense tactics. But check this out. How many people currently study martial arts? Well, there are 4,700 right here in Jacksonville, another 5,000 down south. I mean, you got a lot of students, right? We're all impressed with that, but check this out. Here in North America, approximately 3.2 million take martial arts. Google it. Over 90 million are involved in yoga. What's the difference? Well, the difference is we're training our students like they're all going to be killers and when they become instructors. Where yoga trains them as being students, but if they do decide to pursue a higher level of training, don't worry, they got a certification program for that. So maybe the dilemma is I'm trying to create a black belt who can do it all. They can defend themselves. They're in great shape. They can even teach a class if I'm absent. That's the rub. So maybe we need to rethink it where black belt doesn't equal I'm an instructor. Black belt equals I accomplish and actualize my potential, follow a particular curriculum. However, they want to become an instructor. Don't worry, we have an answer for that. We even have an entry-level program for instructors called apprenticeship. And that's something that maybe you should look at to where the student who is interested in accelerating their training and learn more about teaching, learn more about the specifics of your art, there could be a higher level of training. But your term fast food, I get it. I get it. You know, that's where the whole Mac Dojo came in. But the truth of the matter is, if we can help more people earn and enjoy success early on in the membership, they'll stay longer. And if they stay longer, you end up with a whole bunch of students. And from within that enterprise, within that membership, then you can provide opportunity for people to become an instructor. But let me go back to what I just said. What does black belt equal? Black belt, in my mind's eye, does not equal that they've accomplished all. They've done nothing but great things. Black belt means they've stuck with it long enough to where they have the fundamentals where now we can get to work. And I think if you make that segregation in your mind's eye, you'll have an easier time, perhaps reducing your curriculum without reducing the quality of the class, without reducing the intensity. But I think sometimes we want more for our students than they want for themselves. And before you know it, they're doing too much, too soon, too fast, and they're gone. So here's the litmus test. How many black belts do you have? Now, that's a rhetorical question, but how many black belts do you have? Well, I can guarantee I can give everyone the answer that they can agree with. Ready? Here's the answer. Not enough of them. And the reason why we don't have enough of them is that we made it too friggin' difficult to get there. So maybe there's three things you should consider. Number one is change your mind about what black belt means. Does it mean they're qualified for instructor? Because think about it. You meet somebody at a dinner party and they hear you're a karate guy and they'll say, hey, are you a black belt? Hey, yeah. And then they'll make that funny noise, of course.
Yeah.
And straight away, the next question is, well, where do you teach? And there's the problem. That's probably the entire industry. We think black belt equals high level instructor. It doesn't. It means somebody who's training to develop themselves physically, mentally, maybe even emotionally. But if you kind of back off the idea of what the net result of a black belt is, you're going to end up helping more people. I mean, hundreds of more people. Second thing is this. What makes teaching so difficult is when your people don't get it. I mean, particularly the younger ones. So maybe one of the things we have to do too is teach less curriculum, but with more intensity. And you end up not only having an easier time teaching, your students are successful as well. You know, the hardest thing about an instructor's job is to get people to get as good as what you think they should be. However, our job, what we've realized, that we're going to help people actualize whatever potential they may have. And if they're athletically inclined, don't worry, we'll get some good ones. Because in the grand scheme of things, if you have 100 students, here's the breakdown. 10 of these folks will be exceptional. They'll be highly athletic. 20% of these students will be a different kind of exceptional. Well, they'll bring a certain set of challenges. But on average, 7 out of 10 students are on average. So that's the sweet spot. But when you find those 10%ers that want to take it all the way, or those 20%ers that need additional help, then you can start segregating how you teach in the types of classes. But the third thing is this, guys, it's got to be fun. You know, for some of us, the fun wore out, and it wore out because we're frustrated. The workload of teaching is so severe because, again, we didn't clearly define what the ranks represent, what they're trying to serve, and where you're going. But in my mind, the shortcut to your success is stop thinking that a black belt is everything. The black belt is the start of things. And if we think that developing a student to black belt level also equals their ability to teach and walk through walls and defend themselves with 10 people, well, the people that need our help the most, we won't have a chance to help them. That was a $10 answer to a $5 question, but there you have it.